Thanks to this comment for inspiring this video. I think it's clear that recent Clash Royale updates have been pretty bad. I don't think we've had a single good update this year, to be honest. Starting all the way back in early 2025 with chest and season shop removal to late 2025 with heroes and level 16. Updates have been so negative on the game that even I, a long-term casual player, recently felt kind of defeated. So what I thought was, if Clash Royale isn't gonna make a good update, why don't I make my own update? So that's why in this video, I've put together an update that I think would be amazing for Clash Royale. I think we can all agree that the UI in the current landscape of Clash Royale is absolutely terrible. Nothing is really that easy to get to, and it's really just so roundabout. For instance, why is it that the events tab is still a thing in the game? And why is it still quote-unquote under construction, when they've moved everything to the main screen anyways? So the first thing I want to revamp is the events. I want to move all the events and competitive game modes like Mega Draft, Classic Challenges, Grand Challenges, as well as Classic 1v1 and 2v2 back to the events tab, so that the main screen only has Trophy Road, Merge Tactics, 2v2 League, and Ranked. This would make it so much easier to enforce specific rules to decks, since that's one of the biggest problems this current UI has. By tying it to your full card collection, it made it really weird to do custom events, since it was really confusing on whether or not you can use cards you haven't even unlocked or every evolution in these special challenges. Moving it to the events tab eliminates this confusion, since it allows you to have two separate collections, an events collection with all the cards, evos, and heroes unlocked, and your normal card collection. The next thing I want to tidy up is the main screen, since right now it's kind of messy. The bottom bit with the battle button and your deck selection can stay, and so can the whole arena thing, but the things around it have to change. Clash Royale should make one single little icon that leads you to different offers, instead of shoving all the offers in your face and literally making the UI worse to use. I think these small changes would go a long way in terms of fixing the current UI on the home screen. The next UI thing that needs to change is the whole reward percentage thing. Even though I think it was a nice change that they let players see what percentage of rewards you can get at different arenas relative to level 1, they should still at least showcase what rewards you can expect at each arena, since they clearly do it on their website, but not in-game. And the thing is, when chests were still in the game, they actually used to do it, so it's so confusing why they removed it when it's as important as ever in the current landscape of Clash Royale. A big thing I want to introduce in this update is a full trader revamp, since I think the trader feature has big potential. I just think they're doing it completely wrong. In its current state, the trader is one of the most useless features in the game, but I think my suggested idea might actually make it better without compromising profits for Clash Royale. The idea I had for this trader revamp is inspired by one of my most favorite childhood games, which is Jurassic World the game. I think Jurassic World the game has an amazing trading feature that would work amazingly in Clash Royale. So let's go through it. Jurassic World the game has a full trade hub that randomly generates trades throughout the day for different things depending on what you have. These trades last for around 3 hours. However, it also has a custom trade section that allows one free trade for free-to-play players, but 3 custom trades per day for the season pass players. So my idea for this in Clash Royale is to implement a full trade harbor section, either in the Clan Wars section or in the shop, or even somewhere on the main screen. And I think it's a great idea because Clash Royale currently has so many different currencies that it just makes sense to allow for trading. What this trader will do is it will scan a player's account and generate trades for different currencies to different rewards at a slightly worse conversion rate than what it is normally, so that not only is it worth it for Clash Royale, it's also somewhat worth it for the player if they don't mind losing a bit of value to get the trade that they actually want. This would not only make the overall economy of Clash Royale better, but it would also actually be better for Clash Royale in terms of overall profit and player engagement. For example, the trader could see that you have a lot of star points and offer a trade to turn these into either coins or even some special rewards, like Evo shards or hero fragments. What I plan is for there to be 5 trades per day for free-to-play players that lasts 24 hours, and Pass Royale players get 1 special trade per day that is exclusive to Pass Royale players, which might be something like gems for a specific Evo shard or something else. Now, along with this update, I want to separate trade tokens from the trade harbor. Instead, what I think will be nice is if trade trade tokens only worked for trading within a clan. The reason I think this is because if the trade harbor has such different trades every day, we can't possibly use trade tokens as a currency for this. So the trades shouldn't need an extra piece of currency. And to improve trade tokens, I believe the card amounts should scale depending on the arena that you're at, or maybe even your king level. I think the reason trade tokens are such a weird feature is because for newer players, being able to receive 250 common cards is so game changing. But for players either at Legendary Arena or even at King level 12 onwards, it doesn't even make a dent in their collection. Allowing it to scale depending on level kind of works. For example, if players at Legendary Arena were able to trade, let's say 1000 common cards for 1000 other common cards, it would actually make sense. But then again, I feel like if a clan has players who are at very different levels in terms of progression, it just wouldn't make sense. So let me know if there's a better way to think about this in the comments. So going back to the trade harbor, what I also want there to be is a tab where a casual player can get 1 custom trade per day, and Pass Royale players can get 3 custom trades per day. What I want to happen here is I want Clash Royale's system to calculate the value of each item in the game in terms of a specific currency, so that they can choose conversion rates that not only benefit them, but also benefit players looking for specific rewards. One of the most well-known conversion rates in Clash Royale is 1 champion card being worth around 40,000 gold. So if Clash Royale's internal computer was able to quantify 1 champion being worth around 25 to 30k gold if they're trading, it would actually be worth it for Clash Royale, and it would be worth for the player if they're trying to get rid of a specific amount of champion cards. And before I get comments saying that this is a terrible change, I think this is the only way to fix the game's economy, to be honest. Imagine if star points gave you the exact same return as your initial investment. That would be so terrible for overall game economy, since players would get too many resources. And if we go back to our scaling thing, if we made it so that players at higher arenas are able to give away more cards, it would actually make sense as a custom trade. For example, if a player at Legendary Arena is able to give away 5 legendary cards for a different currency, let's say for example hero fragments, it would actually make sense. And to combat this system being abused, they can do exactly what Jurassic World the game does. In Jurassic World the game, cash is an extremely important resource, much like gems in Clash Royale. The trade harbor does not allow any custom trades to receive cash, but you can give it away. Maybe the game can have a hard lock on being able to trade star points for gems, to prevent players from manipulating how inflated star points are. And if Clash Royale really wants to limit evolutions to its free-to-play players like they are doing currently, they can restrict that as a trade in their harbor as well. A custom trade that I would do is gold for hero fragments, and some specific trade options they could give is being able to trade a specific Evo shard to a custom Evo shard. For example, if you have an Evo Inferno Dragon shard, you can trade it to a random different Evo decided by the game's RNG as a custom trade. I think that trading for custom limited emotes, banners, or other cosmetic items like card skins or tower skins would also be so amazing, and would be way more useful than the crystal shop that we have currently. This update would single-handedly save how broken the economy is. So many players in Clash Royale are bottlenecked by different things. By making it so that they can trade these things to different things would be so amazing. For instance, if a player is bottlenecked by gold and they don't have enough cards, they can be given the chance to trade this gold for cards or even wild cards. And if a player has too many cards that they just don't use in their main deck, they can trade these cards away for gold, or maybe even hero fragments, crystals, or wild cards. I also imagine that they would want to transition from star points to crystals, so this trade harbor feature would actually work perfectly with that as well. The possibilities for this are literally endless. While I think that the season shop was one of the best features in the game before it was removed, I think that just re-adding it is so unlike what Clash Royale would realistically do. So if I were to make my own update, I would make seasonal events give some sort of new type of reward. What I was thinking was maybe Clash Royale can actually make these seasonal events worth it to do by giving, for instance, maybe a free custom trade ticket in my revamped trade harbor if you do 3 battles a day, since that would actually give people incentive to play these events. Another thing I was thinking was making more banner icons that level up depending on how many games you play of a certain event, so that you can at least flex these without changing how these events are set. Another thing I wanted to do with these seasonal events is to add a mode much like classical 1v1 in that it's level adjusted to level 11 and losses don't count, that involves no evolutions, no tower troops, and no heroes. Maybe like a Retro Royale temporary game mode. I know that Retro Royale in itself was already a failed game mode idea, since Clash Royale didn't add any level caps. So having this fun little game mode that they already have the code for would be really easy to make. And it also gives players freedom to play in a game mode where they don't have to be stressed out about all the gimmicky things in the game. And building on this, I also think it would be fun if they rotated this seasonal event thing that I just suggested on a weekly basis. For instance, maybe the first thing can be the Retro Royale thing that I suggested, and then maybe they can add Rage Battle or Triple Elixir mode and so on. This would be similar to the old party button system without even needing to add any extra coding or design work, since they already have these game modes in War Battle. But having the freedom to do battles without changing your war deck and also still having it at level 11 would be so amazing. But I do have other ideas for seasonal events. I think it would be amazing if Clash Royale implemented some of the PvE game modes from some international Clash Royale versions, since I feel like a lot of people enjoy these game modes based on how popular it is on YouTube, and I think they are really fun to watch as well.
I'm not a rocket scientist, but I think that Mega Knight's dead. Good game, we did it. Nice, redeemed ourselves.
Again, for these, I feel like there are so many ways that they could execute this. Clash Royale could re-add a party mode button or some other way to get all of these special game modes. Especially since if this update has my revamped UI change that brings all the competitive events back to the events tab, they can just add all of these to the events tab to prevent it from getting in the way of the main modes like Trophy Road. Another thing I want to revamp in this update is the daily lucky drops. At the moment, you only get 4 lucky drops per day from battle. The reason I think this feature is so weird is because it kind of goes against the point of playing Clash Royale more, since it limits players to only play up to 4 games per day to actually get rewards. I think something that might be good for Clash Royale to do just to build on what they already have is to make it so that the 4th lucky chest gets better every day you play. This would be really similar to the old daily lucky drop streak, but I think it would be easier for them to integrate, since they already have the system for it. The way they could do this is to allow the 4th lucky chest to have more taps available, so there's a greater chance of it upgrading to a 5-star. And on top of that, I think it would be fun if during these Crown Rush events, they also had special lucky drop rewards available when you win battle. Like for example, at the end of a lucky drop rush event, you get a guaranteed 4-star drop that has the potential to upgrade to a 5-star. Or maybe they can even have it so that during these events, you can get the seasonal themed chests. So if we were talking about the December season, if there was a Crown Rush, maybe the daily rewards could temporarily be the gingerbread chests. A small change that I would implement in this update that the game literally used to have is level caps on ranked. It's such a simple feature that goes a long way, and it actually makes it more fun to play ranked, since you can still get somewhat good rewards even if you only have level 13 cards. And on top of that, if even arenas had a level cap instead of a minimum level requirement, it would stop 2 of the biggest issues in the game at the moment. First of all, it would overcome the issue of overleveled players in lower arenas destroying other players, and secondly, it would actually overcome the unfair matchmaking system that the game has at the moment, since a lot of it comes down to level problems. One thing that I thought of is if CRL is done at level 11, why not make the level cap in Champion, Grand Champion, and Ultimate Champion level 11? This would be easier for pro players, since then they would be playing in a realistic situation, and they can learn level interactions a lot better, which can translate to more consistent play in competitive Clash Royale. This next thing is something that I've wanted to talk about for the longest time, and I think it would genuinely be amazing for Clash Royale. I think Clash Royale is hesitant to implement features that have serious impact on matchups, like for example fixing the starting hand, or adding more hero and evo slots, because they don't want it to be a big fail and it leading to negatively impacting players. And it kind of makes sense. If a big proportion of players don't want a specific feature, why should they force every player to test it for them so they can gather data? So what I thought of to overcome this is introducing a new section in the events tab along with the other things I've talked about in this video called test game modes. These are some game modes that would allow Clash Royale to test a specific change to the game without having it rolled out to every single player and risking it being a failure. In this test game mode, players will be given the choice to play the game with a new feature that Clash Royale would be testing. For instance, if Clash Royale wanted to test out whether or not fixing the starting hand would be good, they could make a test game mode that allows players to see if it would be a good change or or a bad change. Over the 1 week period where this test game mode is in the game, they can collect data to see if it's really worth it or not worth it for them to introduce these features. Another thing I was thinking about was adding a feature in this game mode that allows players to test the work in progress balance changes of the month, so that every player can see the true impact of a balance change before it impacts their main deck. This feature would be so amazing for a variety of reasons. First of all, it would allow Clash Royale to collect game data from people who are actually willing to test out a new feature, but also it would actually allow them to give actual justification on why they decided to add a feature or not add a feature, which would prevent community backlash, since they could just say something like, "In our testing, we found that players engaged more with the game when they could fix their starting hand, which is why we added it," or "In our testing, we found that players were less likely to finish a started match if they fixed their starting hand, so we decided not to add this feature." Another thing is that with the work in progress balance change mode, I think it would be so good if players could actually see how their decks are going to be affected in a controlled environment, rather than learning that their best cards in their deck have been nerfed in a real match. And I know this is a big issue, because I remember in 2024 when the Dagger Duchess was released, everyone used it while she was broken. But even after she was nerfed into the ground, people continued to use her because they thought she was still broken. So this feature would eliminate this. And also, it would stop Clash Royale from making bad balance changes, if players in the community are able to test out a change before it's officially released. Another thing I was thinking about that could go into these test game modes is a 3 Evo slot mode with 1 hero slot, so that Clash Royale can see how far they can push it before people start to go crazy with all the gimmicks. This type of feature is kind of like the dev build that creators get, but it allows the entire player base to have access to these test features, which ultimately is better for Clash Royale rather than only giving these test features to a handful of people. I hope you enjoyed this video though. Thanks for watching.